Rent is too damn high. The rent is too damn high.
I quite literally have $7.41 in my checking account right now.
Besides the fact that I'm extremely struggling to pay my rent every month,
Know this, but there is a reason behind these high-ass rents.
What's up, Financial Hawks? So in today's video, we're going to be going over the craziness that's going on with housing. If you guys don't already know, mortgages are high, but also rent is crazy. It seems like they're just growing by like hundreds. Seem like every day, it seems like. So we're going to be going over a few videos. I'll kind of be sharing my thoughts throughout this on this, again, crazy rent market. Man, it's just a crazy time right now. And a lot of people are surprisingly not even aware of this. So if you're, I guess lucky enough not to worry about this or not to have to worry about this is great for you, but it's crazy out here right now. Let's go ahead and start with this first video, and I'll kind of just share my thoughts throughout this. But yeah, it's a wild market right now, guys. It is a wild market.
$2,000 a month, and my rent is $1,660.
Sadly, this is getting to be the story.
Let's replay that.
$2,000 a month, and my rent is $1,660.
Sadly, this is getting to be the story of pretty much everybody out there. I haven't rented since I was in my 20s, so I've been out of the housing market forever on this shit. But I tried to help my niece get a place about 6-8 months ago, something like that. And she was telling me everything she found was $1,900, $2,300. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, sweetheart, you just let me look for you. There's something out there, $500-600 a month that's decent. I'll find it. There's not. Like, how? I mean, why? Why did we get to this point? Why is just a decent place to sleep and cook and survive, exist? Why is it $3,000, $4,000 a fucking month? I mean, it's ridiculous. Something's got to change. Otherwise, we're going to end up with half the country homeless.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point. Like, we're seeing these increases like in rent and everything and whatnot, but like it's going to actually end up getting to that point of either everybody going to be, not everybody, but a large percentage of people are going to be either homeless, or you're going to have a whole bunch of people living, I guess, together. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work in a 1-bedroom or a studio. Are you going to fit, all these people in? But yeah, like she was saying at the beginning, she makes $2,000 a month. Her rent is $1,660. Yeah, $1,660 or like $1,600, like isn't. Unfortunately, that's not really on the high side. The high side are probably like 2.5, 3K. I guess it depends on your area too. But like the numbers I've been seeing, 1.6 is not on the high side. So, I mean, not on the high side of like the craziness of the rent. Like, yeah, 1.6 is high, but it isn't like the numbers have risen so much that 1.6 is like the normal now. Like, and that shouldn't be. 1.6 should not be the normal. 1.5 should not be the normal. That's kind of how it is right now, which is crazy. And I like how the older gentleman was kind of talking about how he was helping out his niece and how she wasn't able to find anything like $500, $600. And he was like, yeah, I got this. You're probably not looking at the right places. And then he's looking too. And it's like, oh, wow. Because it's like, yeah, like I say that with a lot of, like, well, not necessarily just older people, but like people online, like if they're not experiencing it themselves, or yeah, if they're not experiencing it themselves like currently, but maybe they experienced it like 10-20 years ago, they have like a completely different like mindset of kind of how things are going currently, and not necessarily like 10 or 20 years ago, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, for example. It's like younger people also doing this too, and it's like, yeah, you can do all the research you want. The prices have risen. Their prices have risen just across the board. And again, depending on what area you're living in, the prices, obviously will vary. But the fact that 1.6 isn't something that looks super crazy now, But back when I was looking for houses for myself and possibly looking for like a place to rent out as well, like when I, just graduated from college, yeah, 1.6 was extremely high. It was nowhere on my radar even back then. So the fact that, that's normalized now, it's just crazy because that was on the higher end. You would get so much space and all this. Now for 1.6, you may get one bedroom and that's it. It's just crazy right now. Let's go ahead and play the next one right here. Rent is out of control. Yeah.
Agree that $2,100 a month is damn cheap. And a lot of people have commented this, but it's just not true. So I'm going to explain why. The national average salary in the United States right now is $59,000, and $59,000 after taxes, your take home every month is about $3,800. So if you are a household or a single person living off of that one salary, that rent right there is more than half of what you're making. And that's just the average. So of course, there's going to be people that are well below the average who cannot even afford a $2,100 rent that you guys are saying is cheap. Now, I'm not ungrateful at all. I'm blessed that we are able to afford this $2,100 of rent, which we got at this rate because we moved during COVID, during the height in 2020. We moved there in 2020 during the height of COVID, and they were having a really good deal because they were desperate to get people in. Now, unfortunately, that rent is about $3,000. But why are we normalizing? Why are we normalizing $2,100 a month of rent as being cheap when the majority of people in the United States don't even make enough to afford this type of rent? So many people have roommates. So many people who are families and have multiple children are living in an apartment instead of living in a house, which is what we are saving for. We're never going to own this apartment. We're all just throwing our money away, renting instead of buying. We have no buying power right now as millennials and as Gen Zers. Why aren't we able to afford to buy things like the generations before us did? How come we're the ones that are screwed? I was born and raised in California. It's not going to be possible for me to buy a home here because the average price of houses here, and these are old houses, like 1950s houses, is about $700,000. I thought I made decent money. Last year was the most I ever made, right? I thought that we would be able to afford a house. We're not going to be able to afford a house that's almost $1 million. It's just not going to happen. So I understand people saying $2,100 is cheap. It's not cheap. It's cheaper than other places, but we are all of us are being overcharged for rent, and these houses are insanely expensive, and there's like no chance of most people ever even being able to afford to buy a house in their lifetime. That's
crazy. Let me just play the beginning one more time.
I would have to disagree that $2,100 a month is damn cheap, and a lot of people have commented this.
Okay. I just wanted to see if she was going to say, I guess, how many bedrooms her current place is that she's paying rent on. But I have two things for this. Like the biggest thing I saw when I first saw this, actually just now, but the 2,100 is dang cheap. I think there's kind of like a mix up, or maybe like the different, like the way she's interpreting it versus the way they may have written it. I think it may be a difference there. Again, I don't know this person who actually commenting, so maybe it could be completely opposite of what I'm thinking. But I'm thinking they're saying that $2,100 is cheap compared to like everything else now. Like not necessarily agreeing with 2,100 being a good thing. It's still a bad thing, but how crazy the market is right now is like, dang, you're only paying $2,000, man, that's cheap. More of like the sarcastic way, but yeah, like how crazy it is now. Maybe for a 1 or 2 bedroom, 2,100 is on the cheaper side compared to paying what 3,000 you probably would be paying now, or 3.5K you would pay, be paying now. But again, like, I'm just putting words into the commenter's head. Maybe they're not. Maybe they weren't being like more sarcastic with it. Maybe they were like super serious, like, "Oh yeah, that's super cheap. Yeah, everybody should be paying 5K," or maybe something along those lines. But like, that's like the first thing I kind of just was thinking about when I first saw this. But yeah, I do agree with her that this shouldn't be normalized. It's sad that we're at that point that seeing 2K is like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just 2K. Like, it's like there's no outrage on it because it has become so normalized. So yeah, I definitely feel her on that. And she talked about too that most people wouldn't even be able to afford that for rent, and that is so true. Literally, the previous video that we just saw, she said she was making $2,000 a month, and her rent was 1.6. So yeah, she would not even be able to afford the 2,100, and let alone the bills on top of that. Your appliances, and from your electric and your water, and if you got a car note, and your car insurance. Like, it's just so much. So yeah, I definitely agree with her there that it's a wild time. It definitely shouldn't be normalized because there should be more outrage, but because I guess it's so normalized now, we're in the situation that we're in now, and you're gonna have roommates for sure. This is definitely roommate season for sure. So if you're in college right now and you do have roommates, this is actually kind of good for you in a sense, because now when you come out and you do rent out, maybe like a spot or two, you'll still be in that vibe of renting out with people. So there is a plus there, I guess. But if you haven't been in school for a long time, and your bills and everything are too high, you having a roommate is going to be a lot tougher versus somebody who is just like fresh out of college and used to having that roommate there. So, oh man, it is freaking wild right now. It is freaking wild. It is freaking wild. I definitely want to hear you guys' comments too on if you're like renting, for example. I want to see what your rent prices are. I did a video on rent prices, kind of like in my area and other areas, like about a year ago. I may have to do another one now and compare the two, because even back then when I was doing it, it was very high, and you could see the increases of how much the rent has increased and how it started going up by hundreds, like within a year. So I can just imagine how much it is now, because even back then last year, it was crazy. So I'm gonna have to do a part 2 on that for sure. Let's go ahead and play the next video here.
I want to know who they're pricing these expensive ass apartments for. Who are they pricing it for? Because there's no way that I can't find a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom for lower than $2,300 that's actually decent. No roaches, no rats. We should not be in a state where minimum wage workers have to live with 3 to 4 people in order to afford to live. Everyone at minimum should be able to afford to live alone. Period.
Wow, yeah, that was a lot. Now, in an ideal world, everybody would be able, like even minimum wage people would be able to live alone in an ideal world. Unfortunately, we're not in that. So like, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen per se. But I believe she probably lives in like New York. She's talking about rats. She said roaches and rats. But yeah, 2,300 for a decent 1-bedroom spot is like, that's like the point that we're in right now. Like, for 1 bedroom, 2.3 is the norm, which is crazy. Which is crazy right now. Something else. Sorry about that. Something else that that I seen from this. Actually, let me just go back real quick. Just make sure I heard it right. We're gonna play this one more time. I'm just make sure I hear this right before I talk about it.
I want to know who they're pricing these expensive ass apartments for. Who are they pricing it for? Because there's no way that I can't find a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom for lower than $2,300 that's actually decent. No roaches, no rats.
No roaches.
We should not be in a state where minimum wage workers have to live with 3 to 4 people in order to afford to live. Everyone at minimum should be able to afford to live. Everyone.
Yeah. Okay. it was another part at the beginning I thought she said, but she didn't say. So I'll address that in a second. But yeah, the fact that you will need like 3 to 4 people living in a spot to afford it is crazy. Again, to even be in that situation, that's like the normal. It'll be different if that's like not the normal, more on the rare side, but that's like the normal in a lot of these places. I'm not gonna say that's necessarily the normal in like Texas, for example, that you need 3 or 4 roommates for a decent spot. But yeah, places like New York, for sure, I can definitely see that. Kind of just talking with people, frequenting those spots. Another thing she talked about, like, who are they actually? They had this rent so high. Like, who is this rent for? Like, who's going to actually be able to afford this? And yeah, like, that's a great question. Who is going to be able to afford this? Tell me that question, because like, if all these people, okay, let's say everybody should start becoming homeless, what are they going to do with all these spots? Will these spots eventually go down in price, or will they kind of just keep it high and just be like, hey, you just stay homeless and we'll hopefully get somebody in here? Kind of like with the car market right now. Like, you're seeing these insane prices on these cars, and they're not really decreasing the cars. So it's like, who are these cars for? It's like, eventually you guys are going to start losing a ton of money when you eventually decrease it. Then, like, what's the deal with that? But good video, good, quick, simple, and yeah, a lot of different gems right there for sure. And let's go ahead and play the last one real quick.
We've never seen anything like this with the housing crisis right now in New York City. Only 5% of the available apartments in New York City are affordable by the average salary. Tech workers, the wealthiest of the employees, cannot afford to live in New York City. Most of their net income is now going to rent. And rents in New York City rose more than 7 times as fast as wages last year. And the rent's still going up. Wages are not rising with inflation and with these rental increases. So I think we're in a bad spot, and I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below.
That's crazy. That is crazy. They said 5%. NYC rents are so high that only 5% are affordable for the average salary. That is crazy. Now, obviously, at least I'm hoping this is obviously, the 5% are affordable. I'm assuming that's like for one person trying to, again, like rent out like that 2.3 thousand 1-bedroom spot. You would need more people. So it's not like only 5% of people have houses and 95% of people are homeless. But yeah, that's insane. Not even one person. You're going to need multiple people. And he talked about the tech workers, how even them making the most money still can't afford the majority of spots in New York. It is crazy. It is crazy. And like, again, my video I did last year, I'm pretty sure I went over New York prices, and those are insane. I can just imagine what those prices are right now. Let me just skim through this real quick to see
of the
if there was anything else major here. Yeah, the average salary again.
average salary.
That is oh man, that's crazy. That is crazy. And look at that, 135,000. So if you were a tech worker on average making $135,000, you still wouldn't be able to afford the vast majority of the apartments on the market. That is crazy. That is crazy. And it's like it's continually going up, yet the income people are making is going down. Inflation is taking more money from your pockets. It's just kind of getting to like a weird spot right now. And again, I'm very intrigued to see how the rest of 2024 is going to go, and then 2025, because this is this crazy right now, and you see more videos and more people talking about this constantly online, constantly on TikTok, constantly on Instagram, constantly on YouTube, constantly on Facebook. Like, I feel like it had to come to like some type of catalyst real soon, and I don't know how things are going to end up going, when that happens, but hopefully I'll be able to at least keep you guys abreast on a lot of this ahead of time. But yeah, if you're struggling right now and dealing with a lot of this is not only you dealing with this. Tons of people are dealing with this. Look at that. The rent is still going up. They're seeing all this, and the rent is continually going up. So again, I'm very intrigued to see how the rest of this year and next year are going to end up going. If you guys have any predictions, let me know in the comments. Let everybody know in the comments what your predictions are with this current market. Do you think the job market is going to get better by the end of the year? Do you think rent will slightly decrease by the end of the year or next year? Do you think inflation will decrease slightly or a little bit by the end of the year or next year. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this, guys. And again, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And I will be seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.